Welcome to the Action Network podcast, brought to you by the Buckets podcast, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Matt Moore. I'm senior NBA writer for the Action Network, and I'm host of our podcast, Buckets, which you can find in your feed and in the Action Network app, the best way for you to track your picks. You get up the second information where the bets and money are coming in and all sorts of cool stuff, including our show Green Dot Daily, which is available every day to set your betting agenda. This is going to be your NBA playoff second round preview. We are going to go through and give best bets on where the series prices are. We're recording this on Tuesday morning before the Los Angeles Lakers and Golden State Warriors begin their series. We're going to give you some best bets for series plays. And to do that, I'm joined by two of our best contributors to Buckets. We got Sean Little from MSG Networks at Chicago Flow. We got Jay Money. You can find him on Twitter at JMoneyIsMoney. Fellas, glad to have you on board. The second round looks absolutely awesome. I'm very glad to have the first round over with. I'm running hot a little bit here to start the second half, so I'm excited about that. Second round series. Let's go ahead and do it. As always, in our Buckets podcast, we're going to go around the table, give our best bets. These are series plays, and then we'll kind of hit on the other ones before we get out of here quickly. We'll start with Jay. Jay, what's your best bet for the second round?
Knicks plus series price plus 1.5. That's a series handicap there. I love it.
Okay. Sean Little, what's your best bet for a series play second round?
Best bet series play. Suns to win game 3, Nuggets to win the series plus 125. And then we got a little juiced up number here, but I still like it. Still think you can make some money in this spot. Lakers Warriors over 5.5 games minus 190.
All right. I have two. I like the Golden State Warriors minus 1.5 plus 140. And I'll take the Nuggets minus 1.5 on the series spread minus 132. Absolutely ridiculous lines still being laid in relation to the market. Let's start. I want to start with Jay as we look at this Knicks game. As you're listening to this, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, you'll already know the results of game 2. And we'll just go ahead and say up front, Jay, I assume that if the Knicks lose game 2, you're just like, well, that lost, right?
Yeah, if the Knicks lose game 2, I'll be a very unhappy camper. Let's just put it that way. But I mean, anything is possible, but hopefully they don't lose it. But yeah, Knicks series handicap plus 1.5 for me. I think they win the series. So I couldn't talk you off just taking the plus 140, plus 130, the best you can get. But I'll take the insurance with this one. Knicks plus 1.5 at a low number. Got that one at minus 130. I absolutely love the play.
Okay, so in our series preview, I was like, I like Knicks, and I was like, I like this matchup. Like this should be a good matchup for the Knicks. And then Brandon was like, it's Tom Thibodeau versus Eric Spoelstra. And then like my stomach just dropped out of my body and into the earth's core. And the first half, I was like, aha, the Heat are still the 8th seed. That's right. And then the second half, I was like, oh no, it's still Thibodeau versus Spo. Oh God, what have I done? So I'm very curious to hear why you're so confident in the Knicks to win the series.
Okay, yeah. Knicks in the series for me. First off, I don't think Jimmy Butler is going to be 100%. I do think they get Randall back at some point in this one. Obviously, Brunson's a little banged up in this one, but I'll take the Knicks better defensively and offensively, in my opinion. The better overall team. We saw what the Bucks did in game 2. Use their size advantage. Bam Adebayo, I mean, he's a great player, but he's like 6'9" at the most, right? Kevin Love as your backup center, I'm not trusting it. You know what happens sometimes in game 1s? Teams will literally tip their hand, right, and throw the kitchen sink at a team. That's what I believe that he did. I don't think there's many other adjustments they can make other than building the wall and try to wall them off. Once the Knicks figure that out, and if they're hitting outside shots, they will come back and win this series. This Heat team is very inconsistent. Yes, Jimmy Butler can ball. They have guys that can knock down threes. Strus, Vincent, Duncan Robinson, even Lowry, but these are all streaky type of players, and they're a couple of bad games away from getting blown out in this series, giving the Knicks some confidence in this one. So I'll be honest, I have a lot of confidence confidence that the Knicks will win this series, let alone cover the plus 1.5 games. Obviously, if it goes to game 7, I don't care. It didn't matter who wins. I'll get the win regardless there. But I see this as a long, hard, fought out series. I know Spoelstra can outcoach Thibodeau in theory, but Tibbs is not. It's not like he's Joe Mazzulla, like he's some rookie out here, right? He has plenty of experience going up against Butler as well. So I don't think the coaching mismatch is that big, but I do think the mismatch is that big as far as the Knicks and their depth in this one. So this one's all on guys like Quickly, Grimes, the role players, RJ Barrett. Where can you get from them? Isaiah Hartenstein. But I think they just have to take a page out of the Bucks book and do what they did in game 2. Use your size advantage, pass it to the guys in the paint, use those alley-oop passes with Mitchell Robinson. They can't stop it. And once Brunson starts getting into the paint, and I'll start with, they didn't get any foul calls game 1 as well. I think that will even up as the series goes on. I think the Heat literally showed their whole hand to go out there and steal game 1, steal home court advantage. The Knicks, it's all on the Knicks to make adjustments now. I don't think there's much more that the Heat can do adjustments wise in this one. So give me the Knicks to win the series and plus 1.5.
It's a good cap. I think I have some concerns. Among them is the Knicks offense, which was number 2 in the regular season, has looked like absolute trash in the playoffs. Like, they won that Cavs series with defense. It was not good. And some of that you could be like, well, the Cavs are a really good defense. And that's true. But I think like after that game 1 second half performance, like I have legit concerns. I don't know that they have enough poise and countermeasures for them to be able to figure out how to attack a Heat team that like that's their strength. Like, I think the Heat will cool off offensively, but I think that they'll do like all of these type of things in the mechanism of the defense to be able to slow them down. The question I think is going to come down, and some of this too is like Quickly needs to have a better series. Like, the Heat are low on ball handlers, right? Like, they lose Tyler Hero, they lose Victor Oladipo, and Jimmy's banged up. And that's why, like, how do they win game 1? Kyle Lowry goes nuts, right? You need to crowd those ball handlers, and the Knicks did not do a good enough job of that in game 1. If they do a better job, then they can probably shut this down. The Heat shooting is always going to be like a wild roller coaster. It's either insanely good or absolutely terrible. It's absolute garbage. So I think both of those things. Sean, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, on the Knicks.
Yeah, let's start here, man. If the Miami Heat continue to get 5+ threes from a plethora of people at just the right time when they need it in the fourth quarter and in the second half, they're going to win the series. I mean, if Gabe Vince is going to hit big time shots, if Kyle Lowry is going to hit big time shots, it's going to be tough to deal with. But yeah, I mean, I think overall the Knicks are deeper. They have a better squad. I've been making fun of the Spoelstra, Pat Riley aura thing. I mean, Pat Riley's more of the aura because Spo's on the floor calling things and making adjustments. But that Heat culture has shined through, no question, in the Milwaukee series and then in game 1. Both teams offensively were terrible in 1, but Spoelstra made more adjustments and the Heat made timely shots like they've been doing all playoffs. Overall, I believe the Knicks are a better squad. They get it done tonight, and they can continue to roll. The injuries here are the massive thing. We talked about how difficult it was to cap some of these games in the regular season. As we record this coming into game 2, there's a world where we might see no Jalen Brunson, no Randall, no Jimmy Butler. I will say this, Jimmy, if you follow Jimmy Butler on social, he has been walking around New York, hanging out, hitting shops. And I didn't see any wrap on the ankle. I didn't see anything. A guy that has a bum ankle and is worried about getting rest is not a guy walking up 7th Avenue, 10, 15 blocks, looking at sunglasses on the corner. So there's a lot of different things that you could look at there. I think overall, this offense has to slow up, and the timely buckets for Miami has to slow up. I think overall, the Knicks are a better team, and they end up coming out on top. I would play the plus 1.5. I wouldn't take the Knicks outright in the series. I would take that insurance.
Yeah, the interesting question is, are the Heat good enough? The other way, I will say the other way to answer this is the Heat were good enough to beat the Bucks. Giannis missed several games, but we're good enough to beat the Bucks in 5. Is New York good enough to drag them longer? Like, that's an interesting question. It's going to be a good, I think, test of concept on that one. To be perfectly honest with you, I want to I'll be real cautious with this series, but I want to talk about the series of the second round, as NBA executives everywhere pop champagne bottles and thank the heavens, they've been delivered. It's Lakers Warriors. Why would we reward casual fans that have watched all year when we can just bring in the casuals? The casual series of all time. LeBron versus Steph. LeBron with the Lakers versus Steph. Ratings will be absolutely incredible. There's a lot of anticipation in the markets, and I reached out to a few books this morning, and they were like, it's real early. We got to see before the game comes in, but they're anticipating huge handles on these games. They're expecting a lot of money bet on this series because it's fun to bet LeBron versus Steph. I took -1.5 on our series preview for the Warriors. So the more I kind of looked at it, the more I felt more and more confident about Golden State. And a lot of this gets into, I'm worried about game one for sure, but Kerr's been really good in game one. We'll see how it turns out tonight. Even if they were to lose game one, the Lakers, they have the same kind of issue that the Suns are having with a math problem versus the Nuggets. They don't take enough threes. They actually allow a huge number. Brandon Anderson, our NBA futures analyst, pointed this out on our series preview, that the Lakers actually give up a huge amount of threes. And that's post All-Star, when they got all those reinforcements to become an actual NBA team. They still were giving up a ton of threes. And look, the Warriors offense is mid. My favorite bets in the series are going to be unders, because both these offenses, like, everyone's like, oh, LeBron and AD and Steph and Clay and the Splash Brothers. And I'm like, these two offenses are extremely mediocre. These are not impressive offenses. Everyone is really overreacting to the Warriors' performance versus the Kings, where it's like, oh, that Kings team was so good. What an amazing performance from the Warriors. I love the Kings. That was my favorite win total. It's the Kings. What are we doing? This team was 28th in defensive rating. Why are you impressed? The Warriors had the 10th best half-court offense in the NBA playoffs after playing the Sacramento Kings. Like, that's bad. That's a concerning sign. I'm going to like unders in the series. And if it's a defensive series, now, if it's a defensive series, you go, like, doesn't that lean towards the Lakers because they've been the number 2 defense? It would, except for the fact that there's more guys that I trust on Golden State by a hair, by enough to get the 1.5 on the Warriors than I do on the Lakers. I think D'Angelo Russell is going to be unplayable. I'm going to be on Russell unders. This is going to be a nightmare series for him. A team that switches with size where he has to chase Steph. How are you playing D'Angelo Russell in this series? The Warriors' depth is a problem. The Lakers, I think, have a little bit of an edge in the depth, but the Warriors starters are way, 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 way better. So for me, I will go ahead and I will lay the 1.5 here. I think the Warriors will win between 1 and 2 of the first two. They'll win 1 in LA. They always win a road game in the series, and they'll have an opportunity to close it out in 5 or potentially 6 if they screw around. Getting them that -1.5 is great for me. I'm getting a -1.5 here play. Everyone's expecting a long series. Sean, you're expecting a long series. So I'm kind of curious as to your thoughts on what makes you believe that this is going to be a knockout, drag-out, all-timer between Steph and LeBron.
Yeah, it's purely on the fact that I believe it did take absolutely every ounce. I know we're talking about the Kings, and I know they had a great series. And then, and let's be clear, absolutely fantastic season for the franchise, for the fan base, for everything. But it took everything out of the Golden State Warriors to beat those guys. And all the roster and the experience and all the people that we talked about with Steph. Steph was like, clearly, I'm going to go out here and try to get this W all by myself. And that's what he did in Game 7 with that performance. Now, I just think the D'Angelo Russell point is a great one, actually, Matt. I hadn't even thought about that and broke that down yet till you mentioned it. But I think LeBron and the rest of those guys, that roster is full enough. They have enough experience against each other where this will get to at least 6 games. I don't have to worry about who wins, how that shakes out, the different rest periods and all that stuff. I believe this is a 6 or 7 game series. I believe LeBron James will be ready to go in this spot. The only person I'm worried about is Anthony Davis and what Looney could potentially do to him. Anthony Davis is not a guy that likes to overcome. How do I say this and be nice? He's not the guy that likes to overcome a lot of difficult situations. I could see Looney and Draymond getting in his ass and bothering him quite a bit. and he has a hard time mentally trying to get over that block. But if he does and continues to make an impact like we know he can, this is for sure going 6 or 7 games.
His most dominant playoff series run was obviously in the bubble when he was hitting jumpers. He faced a small ball Houston team. He faced, who was their other opponent in there? They faced Houston in the first round.
Come on, guys.
What were you going to say, Jay?
What am I going to say? Anthony Davis will destroy Draymond Green and Looney in this series. This is not Sabonis that they're going up against. They have to deal with size. They had Vanderbilt as well, man. You can play Russell in this one. Russell will have a little sum up in his sleeve. He used to play with the Warriors for like a year in that one. Put Russell on Klay Thompson, my guys. That's all you got to do, man. The Lakers will win this series. No disrespect to you, Matt, but I will fade you. I will take the Lakers plus 1.5. Very confident. I know it's high. You can actually find like a -160. I know we're sponsored by FanDuel, but you don't have to get plus -190. I did see a -160 out there, but regards to that, I think the Lakers, same way I view the Knicks series. I think they'll win the series. I think plus 1.5 is taking insurance here. Lakers will advance to the Western Conference Finals. The Warriors don't have enough for them. The Warriors can ball. They're the defending champs. I do not think they make it out this series. This is not the Sacramento Kings. The Lakers actually play defense. They have size, and they have the depth to stick with these guys as well. I like Lakers outright in this series.
You are aware
I don't see.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Anthony Davis is gonna. There's games already on the record of him having trouble with Looney. This is not like they haven't played against each other, right? So Looney can definitely bother AD. And Jay, you know as well as anyone else, because you've been betting the Lakers the last 2 months and been making quite a bit of money. So I commend you there. There hasn't been a stretch, at least offensively, where, especially in the playoffs since that started, where Anthony Davis has just impacted the game and shown his will game in, game out. It's just something I can't get on board with and expect out of AD. So that's why I see it going 6 or 7.
2020 in that bubble run, his jumper efficiency was through the roof. That's why he was so great in that run. Was like he was making jumpers in an empty building. He faced the Blazers, Yusuf Nurkic. Golf clap for you. He faced the small ball Rockets. Congratulations. He faced the Nikola Jokic earlier in his career before he got way better. Good job. And then they faced the Heat, who obviously, like, again, not
little,
supreme, not huge size here. So, like, I think you're right. The physicality bothers him. Like, the most likely scenario, I hate to say this, like, I really do. I don't want this to happen. But, like, we have to be real about this as bettors. Like, the most likely scenario is AD gets banged up. Like, that's the most likely scenario. Jay, I will close with this before we move on. Steph Curry has never lost a Western Conference playoff series. Has never lost a Western Conference playoff series. Should be a good one.
Man.
We'll see how it goes, man. I love the confidence. Sean, you like the Suns to win game 3 and the Nuggets to win the series. This is an awesome bet. Give me your cap, and then I will just talk about how awesome this bet is.
Yeah, I love this play. I think it's a real good chance that the Nuggets can win this game, they win this series in 5 games. The Phoenix Suns are going to get a W, and this is the spot to get one going back home. -4 is the number right now in Phoenix, but yeah, I think they show up and get it done in game 3. They're not going down 3-0. The desperation factor is going to be there. The bounce back factor, all those numbers we laid out last week, Matt, with teams going back home. They're going to be able to take care of business here. I like them to get the W, but I'm not going to let my eyes. I'm going to believe my eyes watching this team. This Phoenix Suns team is beyond thin. They have literally 3 or 4 players on the entire roster that should be getting time in a playoff series. So the Nuggets played well the first 2 games. They're going to continue to play well. They have too many bodies that they can throw at Phoenix. If Devin Booker doesn't score, the minimum Devin Booker can score in the game is 35. If they want to win, it's going to be up there in the low 40s. And then Durant's going to have to follow him up with 35 plus as well. I do think they show up in a major way, get some role player production here at Phoenix in game 3. I think they get the W, but I cannot see. I watched game 2 twice. I watched it live last night. I rewatched it this morning. They don't have enough. Remember we talked about the Nets not having enough? Phoenix doesn't have enough, period, especially I think with or without Chris Paul, they don't have enough. Now we're talking about Chris Paul dealing with a groin. I like the Suns to get the W because they're going to get one, but I like the Nuggets to get the series, and I'll take the plus 125.
I wish CP3 could catch a break, man. I just wish he could catch a break here. But yeah, I will say that the mood was not positive with the Suns last night at the arena about Chris Paul. Like it was very much like, yeah, this may be without him. Groins don't heal fast. They just don't. Groins don't heal fast. He had finally started to find space versus Jokic and started to knock down the drifting fader. Now, like the Nuggets have done a much better job defensively. This is just like a much better defensive squad. There was all of the talk in the pre series stuff content wise was like, how are the Nuggets going to defend the Suns team? And it was like, well, how about they just let Josh Okogie or Damian Lee or Cameron Payne or any of these other dudes that are probably sixth men or seventh men, how about we let them shoot and then they'll just live with 2-pointers from KD and Book. I do think they win game 3. I think they'll carry enough momentum. They're going to play desperate. I think they win game 3. And then I do think I said before the series, my pick was Nuggets 1-2, Suns 3, Nuggets 4. I actually kind of think that the Nuggets are going to lose game 5 at home because it would be an extremely Nuggets thing for them to do. Chance to close out the Suns at home, and they put just enough terror into their fan base, and they close it out in game 6 in Phoenix. That's kind of my
really quick, Jay, before you jump in. Kevin Durant took 12 threes in game 2 purely on the fact that he's looking at the situation like no one else is going to get up any jumpers. I have to take threes here. I think Devin feels that way as well. There's in no world, knowing how efficient Kevin Durant has been his entire career, does he want to be in a spot where he's attempting 12 threes? I can't remember the last time Kevin Durant put up 12 3-pointers in a game. So they don't have enough. Christian Braun for Denver, that's the last guy off the bench. He was playing great on-ball defense. He was bothering Durant. He was bothering Book in certain spots. This Denver squad looked really good. I think the desperation factor will be huge. I expect a big game out of both Durant and Booker coming in. They win game 3, lose the series.
Jay, you got thoughts on that one?
I would look at, I can't find it right now on FanDuel, but I would take either over 5.5 games or Suns plus 2.5. I know it's pretty juice, but I think the Suns can win at least 2 games in this series. Wouldn't be surprised one bit if they won game 3 and game 4. I think the altitude messes with them, right? They're playing their top 5 heavy minutes. We know what KD likes to do in his off time. I think the altitude really got to the guys. They ran out of gas in game 2 as well. I think at the house, it'll be a lot more Phoenix Suns type of games. I still think this series goes 6 or 7 games.
Problem is the market is really putting the screws to you on this. It's minus 178 for plus 2.5, right? So it's like, wait, so the Nuggets are up 2-0.
Could you find the over 5.5 games? I couldn't see it.
I feel like I imagine that's probably going to be juiced as well in the market. So I just think it's going to be like you can play it, but you're going to be laying. It's okay. This is not a podcast where I'm ever going to be like, you should not lay minus 200, but I think you need to be aware, like it's going to be, you'll be laying some juice here when the Suns do not look like they have answers. I will also say this, Michael Malone is ahead in the adjustments game. Came out with a good game plan. Monty Williams did not. His adjustment failed with starting Okogie. He's probably going to go back to Craig in game 3. The Nuggets will adjust to game 3's adjustments, and like they're ahead. That always leans towards whatever coach is like hasn't had to make those big changes. And then I think we're going to see that more and more as the series goes on. In the last one, Philadelphia 76ers took a 1-0 series lead on the Boston Celtics on Monday night in a shocker. In our series preview for buckets, I took Sixers plus 2.5. I need one more win from Philly for that to cash. Because that number was pretty ridiculous outright, especially with how the Celtics screw around. I will tell you both this. I want to get your reaction to it. My dream, Celtics are going to win game 2. We're all on that. Celtics going to win game 2. My dream is that Joel Embiid comes back for game 3. And then I can bet the Celtics. That's like because I took Sixers plus 2.5. Once Joel comes back and the market goes, the MVP's back. Now I can go the other way. I think that I think the Celtics defensively are helped by having Embiid. I think less pace and space. I think less Harden. I actually think this is like an advantage for the Celtics. They have dominated Embiid in terms of the head-to-head matchups. Embiid's gotten better versus Horford, but still struggles with their double teams. That's my goal, is like, I want Embiid to come back at this series, the market to overreact, and that gets me Celtics, and I can have this both ways on a Celtics bet and a Sixers bet. Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, I saw Celtics to win the series minus 190. Like I say, it's juice, but I still think they win the series. It's not an official bet for me, but that's how I'm looking at it. I mean, we got our wish. Celtics lose game 1 at the house. Now they come back. They're the aggressors. I still think they win this series and go to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Matt, I agree 100% because the mental side of it is now we actually have to play because we're on the road and Embiid is back. This is going to be a tough game and Boston will show up. Boston tends to just pull up to games like, oh, we're 8 deep and we have 2 all NBA caliber guys. We have the 6th man of the year. We'll just hang around and we'll be able to get the W when we need to. And then at the end of games, their offensive execution is completely lost because they haven't been going through that motion all year long. They end up folding. That's what we've seen from Boston all year. Now, when they're backed in a little bit of a corner and they know they're going to get a team's best shot, they tend to show up in these spots and play hard and play more together. If you remember, we were all coming into that massive regular season matchup, Boston in Milwaukee. This is going to be the Eastern Conference Finals preview. Boston blew the doors off Milwaukee in Milwaukee. They tend to get up for those type of situations. So I agree 100%. No Embiid. It's that same, the what we talk about all the time with J Money. Teams come in, the superstar sits, teams relax. They think they can show up to the gym. Harden scoring 40 plus. That's never going to happen. And then he's scoring 20 in the first quarter. In this spot, now game 3, hostile environment, the MVP now in the fold, and it's 1-1. Boston will always show up for that spot.
All right, that's going to do it for the Action Network podcast. Thanks for joining us on this Buckets edition. If you want more NBA playoff content, check out our Buckets podcast, 5 days a week of NBA playoff action plus series previews. We are cranking out the content over on Buckets. You can follow Sean on Twitter at Chicago Flow. Jay's on Twitter at JMoneyIsMoney. I'm on Twitter at HB Basketball. My thanks to David Payne, our producer. Check it here for all sorts of great content throughout the week as NFL offseason rolls through, as well as all the other great content. Check out all of our great podcasts and shows in the Action Network app. We'll see you guys again next time. Until then, let's get buckets.